A simple mother kicked off her flight. They panicked when her billionaire son took over the airline. The airport buzzed with noise, but Maria Lopez stood frozen at the gate, clutching her worn-out duffel bag. Her hands shook, not from fear but from the pain shooting up her legs. She had hidden her arthritis for years, refusing to let it slow her down, not when her son's graduation depended on her being there. The boarding pass in her hand was a lifeline. But then the gate agent, a sharp-eyed woman with a too-tight bun, glanced at Maria's thrift store coat and sighed. "Ma'am, you'll have to step aside. This flight is overbooked." Maria's stomach dropped. "But I checked in hours ago," she said softly. Behind her, a man in a tailored suit smirked. "Some people just don't get it," he muttered to his companion. The agent didn't even look up as she waved him forward. "Priority boarding, sir?" Maria's face burned, but she swallowed the lump in her throat. "Please, my son." The agent cut her off. "Next?" Then came the twist. A teenage girl filming nearby zoomed in, grinning. Look at this lady causing a scene," she whispered loudly into her phone. The video was already going live. Maria didn't know it yet, but those seconds of humiliation were about to explode. As security escorted her away, Maria fumbled for her phone. Her fingers hovered over her son's contact, Miguel. But she hesitated. He'd begged her to fly first class, to let him handle things. She'd refused, not wanting to burden him. Now, as the airline staff shoved a cheap hotel voucher into her hand, the Starlight Inn, a dingy motel by the highway, she finally dialed. Miguel answered on the first ring. "Mama, you should be in the air by now." Her voice cracked. "Mijo, they took me off the flight." A beat of silence, then low and calm. "Which airline?" When Maria whispered the name, Miguel's tone changed. "Stay where you are." 30 minutes later, the airport CEO sprinted through the terminal, face pale. Social media was on fire. The viral video had been shared by someone with a blue check mark. "My mom just got kicked off her flight. Guess who owns the airline now?" The gate agent's hands trembled as she pulled up Maria's reservation. The screen flashed red. Priority override, owner's family. Too late. The airline's stocks were already crashing. And Miguel, he wasn't done yet. Maria sat in the quiet lobby of the Starlight Inn, her fingers tracing the chipped edges of the plastic room key. The motel smelled like old cigarettes and bleach. She just wanted to rest. Her legs ached from standing so long at the airport. But her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Unknown numbers. Reporters. Then a knock. She opened the door to find a man in a crisp airline uniform sweating under the flickering motel sign. "Ms. Lopez," he stammered, "we deeply regret the misunderstanding. A private jet is waiting for you at the hangar. Complimentary, of course." Maria frowned. "A private jet?" The man nodded fast. "And the CEO would like to personally apologize." She almost laughed. Hours ago, they'd treated her like garbage. Now, they were scared. But the real twist came when the teenage girl from the airport, the one who'd filmed her, burst into the motel parking lot, her phone still recording. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry," she cried, tears streaking her makeup. "My video got picked up by news outlets, and now people are saying I'm a bully. My followers are dropping. Please, just say something nice about me." Maria stared at her. The girl wasn't sorry for mocking her. She was sorry she got caught. Before Maria could respond, a black SUV pulled up. Miguel stepped out, his usual calm replaced with cold fury. The airline employee paled. "Mr. Lopez, Miguel ignored him, turning to his mother. "Mama, pack your things. We're leaving." The girl's phone was still rolling. "Wait, are you Miguel Lopez, the tech billionaire?" Miguel didn't even glance at her. He took Maria's bag and guided her to the car. But as they drove off, Maria saw something in the rearview mirror. The motel manager running after them, waving an envelope. "Ms. Lopez, your stay was already paid for. By the airline." Miguel smirked. Too late. Because by morning, the headlines wouldn't just be about an airline's mistake. They'd be about who really owned the Starlight Inn now. The black SUV sped away from the motel, leaving the stunned manager in the dust. Maria clutched her seatbelt, watching the neon lights blur past. "Miguel," she said quietly, "what did you do?" He kept his eyes on the road, but his jaw tightened. "What I should have done years ago. No one humiliates my mother." Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. She ignored it. Mijo, I don't need revenge. I just wanted to see you graduate. Miguel's grip on the steering wheel loosened slightly. And you will. But first, we make sure this never happens to anyone else. At that moment, the radio news broke in. Breaking, major shakeup at global airlines as billionaire investor Miguel Lopez acquires controlling shares. Insiders say the CEO has been removed effective immediately. Maria gasped. You bought the airline? Miguel shrugged. Just the first step. Then his phone rang. The caller ID read Starlight Corporate. He answered the speaker. A panicked voice spilled out. Mr. Lopez, we had no idea the motel was part of your acquisition. The airline booked Ms. Lopez there without our knowledge. Miguel cut him off. Fire the manager, renovate every room, and double the pay for housekeeping. He hung up before they could respond. Maria shook her head. You didn't have to do all this. A rare smile tugged at Miguel's lips. I know, but now when a single mother gets bumped from a flight, she won't be sent to a roach motel. She'll get a suite at the best hotel in the city. Maria's eyes welled up, but then the car swerved sharply. A motorcycle had cut them off, its rider wearing a helmet with a familiar logo, the airline's old insignia. Miguel's smile vanished. That's not a coincidence. As the bike sped ahead, Maria spotted something tucked into the rider's jacket, a flash of white paper, an envelope, just like the one the motel manager had been holding. And suddenly, this wasn't just about an apology anymore. It was about secrets someone was desperate to keep. The motorcycle weaving through traffic, its engine snarling as it put distance between them. Miguel cursed under his breath and hit the gas. Maria gripped the door handle, her heart pounding, not just from the chase, but from the look on her son's face. She'd never seen him like this. Miguel, slow down, she said, but his eyes stayed locked ahead. The rider glanced back, then suddenly veered onto an exit ramp. Miguel followed, tires screeching. The SUV fishtailed, throwing Maria against the seat. Then, bang, a gunshot. The rear window shattered. Maria screamed as glass rained down. Miguel swore and yanked the wheel, pulling into an alley. The motorcycle was gone. Silence. Maria's hands trembled. Who was that? Miguel's voice was ice. Someone who doesn't want me digging. Digging into what? He hesitated. Then quietly, the airline's been moving more than passengers, Mama. Drugs, cash, maybe worse. Maria's stomach dropped. That envelope. Was it proof? A receipt? A name? Miguel pulled out his phone and dialed. Javier? Yeah, we've got a problem. Maria knew Javier, Miguel's head of security, ex-military, dangerous. She grabbed Miguel's arm. Number, no more chasing. You call the police. Miguel laughed bitterly. The police? Mama, the mayor's on their payroll. Maria's breath caught, because suddenly she understood. This wasn't just business. It was a war, and she was holding the one thing they were afraid of, her. Because if anything happened to her, the world would know why. Miguel's phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number, stop looking, or the next shot won't miss. Maria reached over and typed the reply herself. Try me. The twist. She wasn't just a mother anymore. She was bait. Maria's fingers hovered over the screen for just a second before hitting send. The reply was reckless. She knew that. But years of swallowing her pride had boiled over. Miguel stared at her. Mama. She cut him off, her voice steady for the first time since this nightmare began. You think I spent my life cleaning rich people's houses and raising you alone just to hide now? A slow, proud smirk spread across Miguel's face. He took the phone back. Javier? New plan. We're not running. We're setting a trap. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of the city. One of Miguel's unofficial offices, where his security team operated off the books. Javier met them at the door, his expression grim. We traced the bike. It's registered to a shell company tied to the airline's former CFO. Maria's pulse jumped. So this goes all the way to the top. Javier nodded. And they're panicking. The envelope the rider had? We think it's a ledger, proof of their smuggling operations. Miguel's eyes darkened. Then we need it. Maria surprised herself by speaking up. And I know how to get it. Both men turned to her. She folded her arms. They think I'm just some helpless old lady, so let's give them what they expect. An hour later, Maria walked alone into a rundown diner near the airport, the same duffel bag over her shoulder. She ordered coffee, her hands shaking slightly, just enough to sell it. Right on cue, the door chimed. A man in a pilot's uniform slid into the booth across from her. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Ms. Lopez, you're harder to scare than we thought. Maria sipped her coffee. You don't know half of it. The man leaned in. Here's the deal. You tell your son to back off. In return, we make sure you get home safe. Maria feigned hesitation. And if I say no? The man's smile vanished. He reached into his jacket, and Maria slammed her coffee down, splashing hot liquid across his lap. He yelped, and in that split second, Javier and two others burst in, guns drawn. But the real twist? The pilot wasn't reaching for a weapon. It was the envelope. And as it fell to the floor, Maria saw the name scrawled across it in bold letters. Senator Richard Vance, Miguel's biggest political rival, the man who approved all airline regulations. Maria scooped it up, her blood running cold. This wasn't just about money, it was about power, and she'd just stolen it. Maria clutched the envelope, the weight of it suddenly feeling heavier than paper and ink should ever be. The senator's name glared up at her like an accusation. The pilot lunged for it, but Javier's boot came down hard on his wrist. Don't, he growled. Miguel burst into the diner, phone pressed to his ear. Mama, we need to go. Now. She didn't move. Miguel, look at this. His eyes flicked to the name on the envelope, and his face went pale. Vance? He's been blocking my tech regulations for years. Javier cursed under his breath. This isn't smuggling. This is blackmail. They've been moving more than drugs. They've been moving secrets. The pilot laughed, a broken, desperate sound. You have no idea what you're stepping into. Maria's fingers tightened around the envelope. She thought of all the times she'd been ignored, pushed aside, just a cleaning woman, just a single mother, just nobody. Now she held proof that one of the most powerful men in the country was dirty, and she wasn't nobody anymore. Miguel grabbed her arm. We can't stay here. Vance has people everywhere, cops, judges, reporters. Maria met his gaze. Then we don't hide. We leaked it. Miguel's eyes widened. Mama! She was already pulling out her phone. Not Miguel's fancy encrypted one. Hair in the cracked screen, prepaid burners she used to text her old work friends. The same friends who cleaned offices at the Washington Post. Javier sucked in a breath. If you send that, there's no going back. Maria didn't hesitate. She hit send. The twist? The pilot started laughing. You think that's the real ledger? He grinned, blood on his teeth. Sweetheart, you just sent them the decoy. Maria's stomach dropped. Because if that was true, then the real proof was still out there. And someone was about to die for it. This response is AI generated, for reference only. Maria's hands went numb. The phone suddenly felt like a dead weight. The pilot's grin widened, his teeth stained pink from where Javier had hit him. You're bluffing, Miguel snapped. But Maria saw the flicker of doubt in his eyes. The pilot coughed out a laugh. Check the envelope, bottom left corner. Maria flipped it over. Tiny, almost invisible handwriting marked the edge. Copy 3 of 5. Copies, which meant the real ledger, the one that could bury Senator Vance for good, was still out there. And if they had decoys floating around, the real one was hidden somewhere no one would think to look. Miguel's phone buzzed. A notification flashed. Washington Post breaking news alert. Senator Vance denies allegations, calls leaked documents, fabrication by political opponents. Javier swore. He's spinning it already. The pilot wheezed, triumphant. Told you, you lose. Maria stared at him. Then slowly she smiled. No, she said. We just found our clue. Because if this was copy 3, and there were 5 total, then the real one wasn't with Vance. It was with whoever kept the originals. And Maria knew exactly where to look. 10 minutes later, they were back in the SUV, speeding toward the airport. Miguel gripped the wheel. Mama, explain. Now. Maria pulled up an old text on her phone, a photo from last month. Her friend Lupe, who cleaned the airline's corporate offices, had sent it as a joke. A blurry shot of a fancy painting in the CEO's private lounge. But Maria hadn't been looking at the painting. She'd been looking at the safe behind it, the one with a handwritten label half peeled off, Master Records. Miguel's breath caught. That's where the real ledger is. Maria nodded. And we're the only ones who know. Javier checked his gun. Then we move fast. Vance's people will be tearing the city apart for us. The SUV roared onto the airport access road. But the twist? They weren't alone. A black sedan swerved behind them. No plates, tinted windows. And this time, Maria wasn't scared. Because she was the one they should be afraid of. She looked at Miguel. Floor it. The game had just changed, and the mother was calling the shots now. The SUV screeched into the airport's private hangar entrance, the black sedan still tight on their tail. Miguel didn't slow down. He accelerated straight toward a closed hangar door. Mijo! Maria grabbed the dashboard. At the last second, the door jerked upward, revealing Javier's team armed and waiting. The sedan braked hard, skidding sideways on the tarmac. Maria didn't wait. She was already out of the car, duffel bag in hand, marching toward the private terminal where the airline's executives kept their offices. Miguel caught up to her. Mama, we need a plan. She kept walking. I have a plan. You're a billionaire. Act like one. The glass doors slid open. The receptionist took one look at Miguel and froze. Mr. Lopez, we weren't... Maria cut her off. Where's the CEO's lounge? The woman stammered, 10th floor, but... Javier already had the elevator open. As they rose, Miguel's phone buzzed. A news alert. Vance was holding an emergency press conference, calling the leaks a criminal hack. The stock market was crashing. The elevator dinged. The lounge was empty, the painting exactly where Lupe's photo showed it. Maria went straight to it, yanking the frame aside to reveal the safe. Miguel exhaled. Biometric lock. We need... Maria pulled a key card from her pocket, the one Lupe had accidentally dropped in her mop bucket last week. Will this help? Javier actually grinned. The safe clicked open. Inside sat a single black ledger, and a flash drive taped underneath it. Miguel grabbed them just as the fire alarm blared. Red lights flashed. Too easy. The twist? The door burst open. But it wasn't security. It was Senator Vance himself, flanked by armed men. You didn't think I'd let you walk out with that, did you? He sneered. Maria stepped forward, putting herself between Vance and her son. Actually, she said calmly, we were counting on it. Because the real play wasn't stealing the ledger. It was getting Vance to admit it existed. And right on cue, every phone in the room buzzed with the same live alert. Breaking, Senator Vance's private jet just landed at restricted airport hangar against FAA regulations. Vance's face went purple. You! Miguel held up his phone, showing the live broadcast of news helicopters already circling outside. Smile, Senator. You're on camera. Maria opened the ledger to a random page and burst out laughing. Because the final twist? It wasn't just names and numbers. It was receipts, including one for a $2 million gift to Vance, paid for with airline funds. And the signature at the bottom? The CEO's. The same CEO who'd just been fired. By Miguel. Vance lunged, just as federal agents stormed in behind him. Maria pocketed the flash drive and patted her son's arm. Let's go home, mijo. The mother had won, and Washington would never see her coming. This response is AI generated, for reference only. Maria walked out of that airport with her head high, the flash drive burning a hole in her pocket like a secret too hot to keep. The news vans outside swarmed like hungry wolves, cameras flashing as federal agents led Senator Vance away in handcuffs. Reporters shouted questions, but Maria kept walking. Straight past them, straight to the waiting car where Lupe sat behind the wheel, engine running. Did it work? Lupe asked, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Maria handed her the flash drive. Better than we thought. Because here was the real twist no one saw coming. This was never just about revenge. It was about justice. And Maria had been planning it for years. 3 nights later, Maria sat in a small apartment with Lupe and 5 other women. all cleaners, all invisible, all holding envelopes of their own. Miguel stood in the corner, stunned, as Maria spread the documents across the table. Airline bribes, she said, tapping one. Drug routes, said Lupe, pointing to another. Stolen wages, added Rosa, a frail woman who'd scrubbed airport toilets for 20 years. Maria met her son's eyes. You thought you bought an airline to protect me, but we were already protecting everyone. The final piece fell into place. The real ledger wasn't just Vance's crimes. It was proof that the entire system was rotten, and the people who cleaned up the messes knew everything. Miguel sank into a chair. Mama, how long? Maria smiled. Since the day they fired me for stealing a napkin. She opened the last envelope. Inside was a single napkin, the one she'd taken to wipe her son's tears when he was 6 and she couldn't afford lunch. Stamped on the corner, the airline's logo, the same airline that would now pay back every stolen cent, with interest. 1 month later, the headlines read, Cleaning staff expose billion-dollar corruption scandal. New labor laws pass in their honor. Maria sat in the front row at Miguel's graduation, her hands folded neatly in her lap. No one kicked her out this time, and when the CEO of the newly renamed Lopez Airlines handed her the first-class ticket, for life, ma'am, she smiled, tucked it into her pocket, and gave it to Lupe. Because mothers don't need first class. They are the upgrade.